Hi everybody, welcome to another one of our videos. I am Paige Libert. I'm one of the consumer technology specialists here at Mid-Continent Public Library, and today I'm going to talk about mobile apps for preschoolers. So this is going to be apps and things that preschoolers might enjoy, or they're aimed at that general age group. So what you're going to need. You're going to need a mobile device. This can be an Apple or an Android. Most of the apps I'm going to show today are available on both. You will have to check your respective app store just to make sure it's there. But you will need Android or Apple device. So that's going to be, your Samsung phones, Google Pixels for Androids, several others, and then your iPhones and iPads, and some of those Samsung Galaxy Tabs and stuff like that if you want an Android tablet. So either way, phone or tablet, these should work on those as well. And then you may also need an internet connection. At the very least, you'll need the internet connection to download the app itself. Beyond that, it varies by app if you need a connection while using it. So just sort of keep that in mind as you're going. And then if you want to come use the library's Wi-Fi to download apps, you don't necessarily need to have your information, but just have it handy.
So I'm going to jump into the first of many apps that I want to show you today. You can kind of see I have a whole bunch here on my screen. So the first one I want to get to right now is Play and Learn Science. This one is by PBS Kids, and they have several apps. I'm going to show you a few of those here in a little while. But I wanted to get this one up and running. I think it's really cute, really cool, and it's science. That's kind of fun. So up here at the top, you can see there's a little for parents area if you want to learn a little bit more about it. But otherwise, you could just tap on play down here on the bottom. Give it a second to load in, and it actually just brings up games. These are all going to be kind of science-related games. You can earn stickers. You can have it in Spanish if you would like. Again, at the top left, there's a for parents option. I have already kind of signed in as what I'm using as my tester account. His name is Techie. He is my pretend preschooler, so I can go and show you all of these games. So you just use the arrows to navigate through the different games. There are quite a few. And then I'll demo the Thirsty Doggy. I think it's cute. And so this one's probably for maybe a little bit older, but it's kind of, a lot of these games are kind of problem solving. So you get to test and try new things to kind of learn how to solve a problem. So in this case, we're trying to put water in this little dog's bowl. So you can see the arrows showing that I can move this little green guy over with his hose to fill up the dog's bowl. And then it just kind of gets progressively more complex as I go. So as you finish puzzles up like this, you can kind of start to move him around. Like, okay, well, that's still not working. So you start to try and find new ways to solve it and get water in the bowl. So, and you have all kinds of games kind of like this. They're not terribly complicated. There's not a lot of explanation about how to do those games. You just kind of get to play with it and learn how they work, which I think is a really cool feature.
Now, here are some of the other PBS Kids apps that are available. There are tons. These are some of the main ones that I've kind of pulled out just so you could see them all. So there's PBS Kids Games. So that is literally just all kinds of games, similar to the ones I just showed you with Play and Learn Science. So it's just games like that. Scratch Junior is kind of the same way. There's all kinds of different games that you can play, but it's based off of Scratch. Then there's Plum's Creaturizer. That literally you get to go in and create monsters, creatures. You get to pick how they look and feel, I guess, all kinds of cool stuff. But you play little mini games to earn more parts and pieces. But they're little learning mini games. Molly of Denali is based off of the show. It's very learning. There's more kind of focus on a little bit more of the like geography and stuff like that, but learning those sorts of things. PBS Kids Video is videos. You can actually go in and watch PBS TV shows. They do have some on-demand content, so you can go in and watch. What was I looking at? I looked at Clifford the other day just to see what was there. So you can go in and actually watch a few episodes of Clifford. They also will show you whatever is live on PBS at that moment, or at least PBS Kids. So it's really kind of a cool app. And then there's Play and Learn Engineering, which is very, very, very similar to the Play and Learn Science that I just looked at or just showed you guys. Play and Learn Engineering kind of has more of an engineering focus, but the games are kind of that problem-solving style again.
So the next app I want to show you guys is Endless Reader, or just Reader as it shows up on my screen. It's down here on the bottom right-ish. It's got the little pink monster. So it is part of a series of apps, all by a company called Originator. They've done a whole bunch of endless apps, and I'll show you a few of those here in a little bit, but I wanted to show you this one. It does make a good amount of noise, so I'm just going to kind of tell you a little bit about it before I open it up so I can actually just kind of demo it really briefly. So you get to just kind of learn letters. So as the kids are playing with it, they get to move letters around. It'll make the letter sound so they can see what it looks like, see what it sounds like, and then kind of how it works in a word that is related to it. And then they get to actually put the word into a sentence with a few other words. So I'm going to hop in and demo it real quick so you can see what it looks like.
All. A. L. L.
Oh!
Up. All. The.
All right, so that's Endless Reader. They have all the, you get to follow through the alphabet and do that sort of thing with all of them. You saw in the bottom corner that it was downloading new words. That's just so you can kind of continue through the alphabet and get a little bit more content in there. But you have all kinds of options with that one. You get to play with it and learn a little bit more about words.
All right, I already mentioned Endless Reader, but there are several of these endless apps that Originator has created. I pulled out a few, there are more than these, but I figured that these would be good enough to kind of give you an idea. They all have the little monster characters as their kind of app icon. So there is Endless Wordplay over here on the right, or left, Lord, over here on the left. There's also Endless Alphabet, Endless Numbers, and then there's Endless Learning Academy, which kind of puts a lot of this stuff all together. Endless Learning Academy does have more of the paid features and things, but it does have a lot of free level content, so you don't necessarily have to pay for things to get some of that educational experience out of it. But they all kind of have little experiences like that where it's kind of gamified, but it's not so much just a game. You get to just kind of play through it and learn all kinds of different things, and they are pretty much exactly what you see. So Endless Reader I showed you was more like learning letters and how words and stuff fit into sentences. Wordplay kind of goes a little bit further with that. Alphabet is just learning your alphabet. Endless Numbers is numbers and very early math. And then Endless Learning Academy kind of goes through a little mix of all of those things.
All right, next app up is Dr. Panda Restaurant 3. So there are restaurants 1 and 2, or just restaurant and then restaurant 2. But I wanted to show you this one just because it's one of the newer ones and it's cute. So we got through the little intro here. So Dr. Panda is another one of those that has tons and tons and tons of apps. This is just one of probably at least 10 to 20 different unique apps. But this one's cute because I feel like it's got a few more moving parts, that you kind of get to play with and tinker with. So I'm going to tap to get into the app. And so as you're playing along, you get to, like, somebody comes to knock at the door, and you get to just kind of interact with the app a little bit more. So you get the menu, and then you get to make them pasta. Woohoo! And And so this one, like, you get to literally, like, try to learn how to cook the meal a little bit. And then turn on the heat. And once it's done, you get the little green arrows. And then once you're here, you get to pick the vegetables and stuff. And you can see the little cow nods her head like yes. And then you just do that. You get to that's what you do with this one. You get to like literally make this meal. The cutting part I think is hilarious. But you get to like try and actually cut the food. As you can see, I'm not very good at it. But you get to do that, and you literally build the meal. The little guest gets to eat it, and then you just gotta continue on. It's like a restaurant.
So some of the other Dr. Panda apps, and I just pulled a few of them. Like I said, there's 10 or 20 at least of these Dr. Panda apps. So the ones that I pulled Dr. Panda Town. That one you get to kind of move your character around and kind of just play with this little town setup. Dr. Panda Cafe and Dr. Panda Restaurant Asia are a lot like the Dr. Panda Restaurant 3 that I showed you. Dr. Panda Hospital kind of works a similar way. You get to kind of play and learn how to do things in a hospital. And then there's Dr. Panda Learn and Play, which is just that. It's a learn and play. You get to learn how to do learn certain things about the world and how it works.
Alrighty, the next app I'm going to do is kind of over here on the left. It's called Sega Mini Babies Dress Up, or in the case of what it shows up on my screen is just Dress Up. So I'm going to tap on that to get it open. This one,
Sega Mini,
like others, has lots and lots and lots of different apps available. Just kind of play with it a little bit.
Ginger.
So as you can see, it's literally kind of what they said it is. It's a dress up. So you get to dress up your little characters however you want. And then whenever you're done, you can just tap the little play button. And you can see the cat is now dressed in their little cute tux and top hat. And at the end, once you've dressed them all up, you get to take a picture, and then you get to start over and do it all over again. It's just super cute. And it's just a fun little dress-up game.
All right, like I said, the Sega Mini is part of a ton of different games. They're all Sega Mini, Sega Mini. So there are some that are the babies, some that are just, I guess, regular animals. So the ones that I pulled out were Sega Mini Space Blocks Builder, which is pretty much exactly what it is. It's just you get to kind of build with blocks in space. Sega Mini Fun Fair, so you get to kind of interact with little fair type things. Sega Mini Neighborhood Blocks, which is just more playing with blocks. Sega Mini Vacation, so you get to kind of interact with vacation-y kind of things. There's little vacation-y games. Sega Mini School, which is for kids specifically ages 2 to 5, so they do little educational stuff. And then the Sega Mini Camping. Just all very cute apps that you get to kind of just interact with and play along with, in some cases build with blocks and do some little quick learning games.
All right, next app. I'm going to talk about Sesame Street finally. So there are all kinds of Sesame Street apps out there, and it's kind of just synonymous with preschoolers and learning how to do things and handle situations. So the Sesame Street app that I'm going to talk about kind of a little bit more in depth is the Breathe, Think, Do app, or as it shows up on my screen, just says Breathe, just with a little bluish monster here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it before I get into it, just because it makes a little bit more noise. But essentially the app kind of helps, your goal in this is to help this monster work through situations that can be frustrating. And the very first one that I worked through, just so I could kind of see what the app does, you're helping him handle putting on his shoes. He doesn't know how to tie his shoes or put on his shoes, and so you have to kind of help him calm down from being frustrated, and then think through strategies to get through it and then actually do the thing. So here I'm going to go ahead and open up the app. So I'm already in here. It has a little cute little loading screen.
Look, this monster is frowning, and his shoulders are all scrunched up. He's feeling frustrated because he tried and tried to put on his shoes, but he just couldn't do it. Tap on the monster's belly to help him put his hands on it.
So you can see, you get to just work through stuff like this. And
Tap on the monster's belly to help him put his hands on it.
It's pretty cute.
Choose an activity.
And there are all kinds of different things that you can do to work through this particular situation. You have them think up some ideas. You get to tap on bubbles at some point. It's very, very cool.
And then there's the Sesame Street apps, of which there are quite a few. Not all of them are necessarily specifically Sesame Street. They may have one character. Some of them work with Sesame Street toys and games. So just sort of keep that in mind when you're going and looking at your app stores if you're looking for Sesame Street apps. Some of them may not necessarily work just with the tablet or the phone itself. They may need an additional product. So one of the ones that I pulled up today, or some of them I pulled up, Elmo Loves 1-2-3s, which is just a learning 1-2-3s game. Sesame Street and Autism, which is kind of helps educate a little bit about autism, and especially how it is working on Sesame Street, and it's using that kind of play. Sesame Street Family Play is pretty much what it says. It's just kind of games and things that you can play as a family. And then there's the Sesame Street app, which does all kinds of different things, introduces characters, allows you to kind of play some little games and that sort of stuff.
All right, we're going to go through a few videos now, or a few apps. I keep saying videos. A few apps this time. So first off, I'm going to do Khan Kids, which is actually Khan Academy Kids. You might already be familiar with Khan Academy because it's that wonderful platform that does videos and tutorials on all kinds of different topics, usually focusing more on kind of STEM sorts of things. But this is an app they created just for kids. You get to walk through all kinds of different situations and kind of basic learning things. They do some matching, they do just some identification, kind of like of where somebody is, and kind of navigating the screen, the touch screen a little bit. But you also get to learn kind of first, second, third. You learn numbers, letters, words. It's all kinds of different stuff. You never quite know what you're going to get when you press this little play button. You get a little kind of interactive game-ish sort of thing. And then if there's something that you want to play again, you can just tap on the library icon up in the top left. The next app I'm going to show you is Xylophone. And it is pretty much what you expect. So I tapped on the piano. You can do the piano or the little xylophone. And you get to just kind of play music and tinker with it. So it's just goofy fun. Up in this top left, this little music note, I can actually pick out a few songs, and it will show you how to play that song on whichever little instrument you chose. So super cute. And then YouTube Kids. So a lot of people are probably familiar already with the app website YouTube. This is a version of that is created specifically for young kids. An adult or parent signs up the account and kind of creates this kid's account, and then that adult can then kind of help curate what shows up. So you have a lot of control over what sort of videos show up. Creators specifically, you can actually block creators if you want to, and set it up so that it's a little bit more specific. But this one is meant to be focused specifically on kids, and you can see that there's some familiar stuff on here. So that's, Sesame Street, you've got Peppa Pig, Caillou, Blue's Clues, but then there's also just kind of stuff that is classic to YouTube. So Lucas the Spider has always been on YouTube, and then you start to go in and just find kind of music videos and things like that as you go through. But it's just a fun, good place to go. Great spot for kiddos to just kind of come play and watch whatever videos. It's kind of fun because they have a little bit more autonomy over what they pick, even though the adult gets to kind of cut it down a little bit so that it's very specific and a bit more kid-friendly, but after that, they kind of get to choose what they get to pick, which is kind of fun. All right, next up, we've got a few more apps. The first one I want to talk about is Fish School. The Fish School is kind of noisy, so I'm going to talk a little bit about it outside of the app itself, but it goes through some of the basics, so just letters, numbers, you get to do some matching, playing around. There's a little bit of kind of finding differences. They do shapes as well. And it tells, like, it literally spells everything out and does everything with fish, which is why it's Fish School. So here we go.
Welcome to A, B.
So it starts out with the alphabet.
Numbers 1, 2.
You can switch it into numbers using this little bubble on the left.
Playtime. Shapes.
Playtime.
Square.
You can do the shapes.
Circle. The alphabet song. Colors. Touch a fish and watch what happens. Pink. Differences. Find the fish that looks different. Matching. Find the matching fish. Letters. A.
So you go through and you can just play with everything and do that sort of stuff. But you can see that it tries to teach letters, numbers, shapes, colors, spotting differences, and you get to play a matching game, which is kind of cute and fun. And next up, we've got Geo Board, which those of you who went to school in the 90s, early 2000s, 80s, probably, I don't know, probably before that, might be familiar with the Geo Board. This is what is sometimes called a math manipulative, but you get to create shapes on this little peg board with rubber bands, and anybody who got to play with them in real life knows the pain of that rubber band snap if you didn't get it just right on that peg. But this is a nice kind of fun way to do it digitally, but it's fun for kids because they get to just make these oddball shapes if they want to. They can do all kinds of things with these colorful rubber bands. They can create pictures, images. You can, down here on the bottom, you can see you can change the board shape and style. But it's also a good thing that, a good app for you to use to do learning. So you can do learning for shapes. For this one in particular, you could do clocks. Down here on the bottom, kind of in the center, you can see that you can add math and text and drawing. So that is how you could kind of turn this into more of an educational app if you wanted to. Or, I mean, it's always just fun to create goofy shapes and do what you want with the rubber bands, and not have to worry about snapping your fingers with them. So it's just kind of a fun one. The next up, I'm going to do farm shapes. So this is just kind of learning animals. This one is specifically insects and farm animals. And these are just little puzzles. So you can kind of go in here. I'll tap on the squirrel. And it just kind of breaks them apart into a little puzzle. And then you get to put the puzzle together and kind of learn what this animal looks like. It does give you, a lot of times might kind of show you the sound that it makes. But just a cute little puzzle game. And then I'm going to show you Erudaru or Ejuadu. I'm not even sure on that one, but it's over here on the left. It's Edudadoo. Erudaru, I think. But it is kind of a fun little app. You can do family learning. You can add your own pictures. It does throw some in there that are meant to be just kind of a stand-in, but you can add your own information or your own pictures. You get to color. You get to do all kinds of things. So, but it makes a lot of noise. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit before I got in there. But here we go.
Brother.
Color.
Yellow.
So you can kind of color them in. It's not real specific.
Orange. White. Purple.
Which is just
Brother.
kind of a fun thing. Sorry, I'm not good
Green.
at coloring in the lines, apparently.
Orange.
So, just cute little goofy stuff like that. There's also some games that you can play. As you can see, you can add images and sounds. But just a fun little app, so you can do sort of some family learning, or literally like learning what family looks like, but then there's also an art component that you get to play with a little bit. All right, we've made it to the last few apps, finally. All right, so we've got 4 more apps to look at. The first one I want to go into is actually Arties World. It's kind of quiet, at least. So this one you just kind of get to explore and do some little drawing games, but you learn a little geography stuff along the way. But I'll pop into here. You can see it kind of shows you little dots where it wants you to go. But we'll tap on him. He has a cool idea. And then you just draw. I am terrible at tracing this. But it lets you draw like little shapes and create things doing really simple, like with really simple shapes, which I think is a really kind of a cool idea. And in small pieces. As you can see, I am not great at this. See if I can get through this fairly quickly. Whee! And then you finished. You made a little teddy bear and it tells you what it is. But just a fun little game. So you can draw. Alright, next one that I want to go into. The next few are all noisy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about them. First one I wanted to go into was Dinosaur Map. It starts out very basic, so you get to just kind of match numbers to an amount of things. So your goal is to kind of match. They'll give you a printed out number, so 1, 2, 3, and then you have to move the characters onto a little train to match that number. But it gets more complicated as you go up. You kind of get to choose your level and then learn that way. So here we go. I'll just show it real quick. That's essentially what the beginning stages of Dinosaur Math looks like. It gets a little bit more complicated from there. Just at some point you might get some basic kind of addition, so it might later on kind of say, you know, it needs 7 plus 2 of those little robo kitties, and so you're supposed to put 9 in the car. But it lets you learn some of those early math skills as well as kind of learning numbers and how that equates to items, which is kind of a fun thing. The next one I'm going to show you is Hopster. Hopster is just a collection of videos, which is really kind of cool. It's another space that you can go in and watch content that is kind of specific to that younger age group. So I'm going to hop in. It's a little noisy, so give it a second.
Baby Riki, enjoying nature.
So you can just tap on those and it'll bring up some of the videos. Some of these are locked, but you can download and watch them later on, which is just, it's a nice little spot to go find some funny, cute little videos to watch. And some of them are learning focused, so you have that in there as well. And then last but not least, finally, is Moose Math. That's a tongue twister. Moose Math. So it is another one of those fun kind of quick learning games for very early math all the way on up into like some slightly more complicated stuff, but it is a little noisy as well. So here we go. Let it load up here.
Welcome back! Ready to make some more drinks?
Hi, my name is Yaya. I am always here to help. Drag ingredients from the fridge into the blender, and don't forget to follow the recipe. Let's make a sassy orange. Put 4 pieces of orange into the blender. That looks delicious. Press the cup to drink.
That you see, it's kind of another one of those cute. You get to match quantity to an actual number. It also, like the other, like Dinosaur Math and some of the other math games, starts to move into some of the basic addition and then slightly more complicated addition and maybe subtraction. So just kind of a good spot to go and learn those sorts of things.
All right, quick recap time. So we talked about all kinds of different apps today. We went to town. There were 15, I think, apps that I demoed, in addition to some of those just kind of extra things that I talked about. So the apps themselves that I demoed were Play and Learn Science. That was a PBS Kids, and that was one where there are just tons of other PBS Kids and related apps out there. I also showed Endless Reader, which is part of that originator series of endless apps. We did Breathe, Think, Do with Sesame Street. Kind of showed off a couple of those other Sesame Street apps as well. Dr. Panda Restaurant 3, and then we had that slide with all those other Dr. Panda apps, of which there are tons out there that do all kinds of different things. Some of them are more game-based, some of them are learning, some of them are just kind of tinkering and moving around a town. We talked about Khan Academy Kids, Xylophone, that was that fun little piano game, and xylophone game. YouTube Kids, which is just a kid-specific version of YouTube that the parents have a little bit more access to lock down. There was Sega Mini Babies Dress Up, and the slide with all of the other Sega Mini apps, of which there are far more than I had just on that slide, but there's all kinds of different ones that you can play with. We looked at both Dinosaur Math and Moose Math, which both work kind of similarly with kind of comparing items to numbers and moving on up from there, but they're kind of just fun, goofy games. We did Farm Shapes, which was that little puzzle game. Arties World, which is kind of learning to draw and doing some of those basic drawings. Hopster, which is a few more of those videos that are a little bit more education-based. Erudaru, which I think is how that is pronounced, that was the one that you got to do more with family stuff, so you could color in little family pictures and do matching games and stuff like that. And then finally there was Fish School, which is the app that used actual fish to outline letters, numbers, shapes, let you kind of learn colors and play matching games. And one that's not on this list was the Geo Board, which was that little math thing that you could play with the pegs and the rubber bands. And that is it. Finally, thank you for hanging out with me with all of those apps and playing with them. I encourage you to go check them out, go play with them, see which ones you like. All of them are free, at least to a point. They may have paid subscriptions, so just kind of keep that in mind. But the ones that I demoed today are all free to use for at least a while. So go tinker with them, play with them, find others. This is far from a exhaustive list. I actually had a list of over 50 that I was trying to choose from for this particular program, and that wasn't even close to the number of apps that there are out there. So just go check out your app stores, see what kind of cool things you can find. Feel free in the comments to let us know other apps for anybody who catches this video later on. Let them know other apps that maybe if you have preschoolers that you, any apps that you like to play with them. And as always, if you like this video and others like it, feel free to find us on YouTube. Just search for MCPL Mo. You can find all of our awesome playlists to watch all of our older videos. And we also premiere our videos there as well. And then we're also on Facebook. So all of our videos premiere on Facebook on the MCPL 360 Facebook page. And those premieres are Tuesdays at 2, Wednesdays at 1, and Fridays at 1. And we hope to see you there. I hope you guys all have a good week. Thanks for joining me.